Here is a paraphrased version of the script. It retains the dramatic pacing, scientific terminology, and specific data points of the original, while slightly altering the phrasing and word order to create a fresh variation. Hello, and welcome back. Today is January 4th, 2026. Exactly 14 hours ago, the Astrobiology Division at NASA went into an intensive emergency lockdown. The trigger for this event was a biological organism, not ice debris, not mineral fragments, but a living biological structure that was just ejected from the interstellar object designated as 3I Atlas. And it is currently entering Earth's atmosphere alive. That I need you to stop and consider the odds for a moment. What I just described has a probability of occurring through natural mechanisms of 0.00003%. Realize that represents 1 in 330,000 events across the entire history of cometary observation. Out of 42 million documented cases, we have never recorded a biological ejection from an interstellar object. Not once, until 14 hours ago. Visualize this scenario. You are at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory monitoring deep space telemetry. The screens are displaying standard cometary data, dust trails, outgassing, and the predictable physics of sublimating ice. Then, at 9:47 Universal Time, coordinated this morning, the sensors pick up something entirely unprecedented. A discrete object separates from 3I Atlas. It isn't tumbling randomly like debris. It is moving with directional precision. Its velocity is 12.3 kilometers per second, and it is locked onto an Earth-intersecting trajectory. The initial assumption was that it was an ice fragment or standard cometary behavior. However, spectroscopic analysis soon returned signatures of carbon-based molecules, amino acid configurations, and protein folding patterns. This wasn't rock. This wasn't ice. This was absolute biology. Think about the implications of what I'm telling you. An interstellar visitor, an object that has traveled through the frozen vacuum for potentially millions of years, just released something organic, something structured, something that analysis confirms contains the molecular building blocks of life, and it is heading directly for us. This data is corroborated by 3 independent sources. The ejection event was detected by NASA's Deep Space Network antenna DSS-43 in Canberra. The trajectory deviation was captured by ESA's Gaia spacecraft, and the molecular composition was confirmed by the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, ALMA, in Chile using Band 7 receivers. 3 different continents, 3 different detection methods, and 3 facilities reaching the exact same conclusion. Biological material is inbound. Now, I have spent over 4 decades studying astrophysics. I have analyzed data from thousands of cometary events, from Hale-Bopp to Oumuamua, and I need to state this with absolute, unwavering clarity. This does not fit any existing model, the current position of 3I Atlas. The temperature is approximately minus 180 degrees Celsius. The radiation exposure from interstellar transit is sufficient to sterilize any known Earth organism within weeks. The vacuum pressure is 0 atmospheres, which causes immediate cellular rupture in unprotected biological structures. Yet, the spectroscopy reveals structural coherence, organized carbon chains, and intact molecular bonds. Whatever this thing is, it has survived conditions that should have destroyed it millions of times over. Let's put this in perspective. When we hunt for biosignatures on Mars, we look for broken molecular fragments or degraded amino acids that hint at ancient life. What ALMA detected in this ejected material isn't fragmentary. It isn't degraded. It is coherent. It is organized. And according to NASA's current trajectory modeling, it will make contact with Earth's upper atmosphere in approximately 37 hours. The question currently mobilizing astrobiology teams across 3 continents. The question NASA's emergency session is trying to answer is not whether this is significant. It is whether we are truly prepared for what happens next. And looking at the data I'm about to show you, I don't believe we are EJECTED grasp what we are witnessing. We must rewind 47 days to November 15th, 2025. The Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii spotted an anomalous object entering our solar system. Initial classification. Interstellar comet, designated 3I Atlas, the third confirmed visitor in human history. But from the very first moment, something was off. The outgassing patterns were irregular. The trajectory didn't align with gravitational predictions. The spectral signatures held molecules that shouldn't exist in such concentrations. Within 72 hours, every major observatory on Earth, Hubble, JWST, ALMA, the VLT in Chile, and the Keck Observatory in Hawaii, redirected their instruments toward a single point of light moving against the stars. And anomaly after anomaly began to pile up. Let me walk you through the recorded data, because this pattern isn't random. It is escalating. November 18th, 2025. The Michi instrument on JWST detected thermal emissions from 3I Atlas exceeding predicted values by 340%. A comet at that distance should only emit heat consistent with passive solar absorption. 3I Atlas was radiating as though it held an internal heat source. Think about that. Internal energy generation in an object that has supposedly drifted through near absolute zero for millions of years. The physics simply doesn't work unless something inside is producing power. November 24th, 2025. ESA's Gaia spacecraft tracked a measurable trajectory deviation of 0.007 degrees. This is significant because the deviation moved opposite to solar radiation pressure. Every known comet is pushed slightly by sunlight. 3I Atlas moved against it. Non-gravitational acceleration. It's the same phenomenon we saw with Oumuamua, and one we still cannot explain. December 3rd, 2025, Hubble's Wide Field Camera 3 captured something unprecedented, a rhythmic pulsation in brightness. This wasn't the random flicker of a tumbling rock. It was a pattern. 23-second intervals with consistent amplitude for 19 straight hours. Then, as if switched off, it stopped. I've reviewed this with researchers at Caltech and consulted colleagues at Harvard. The consensus is that no natural cometary process creates rhythmic optical pulsations with that precision. In December, ALMA's receivers detected complex organic molecules in the outgassing plume. Not simple compounds like methane or water, but complex structures, cytosine, guanine, and adenine, the nucleobases of DNA. Pause here and understand the statistical impossibility. Finding all three nucleobases in a cometary event is less than 0.01%. Finding them in concentrations visible to spectroscopy is even lower. Finding them in an object that already shows rhythmic pulsations, trajectory deviations, and thermal anomalies makes the mathematics absurd. We aren't looking at coincidence. We are looking at a pattern that defies every probabilistic model we possess. Then came December 29th, Anomaly 5, the ejection event. At 14:23 Universal Time Coordinated, the Deep Space Network registered a mass separation. Approximately 2.3 kilos of material. Velocity relative to the parent object, 847 meters per second. That velocity matters. Natural outgassing gives you 10 to 50 meters per second. Extreme ice sublimation might hit 100 meters per second. 847 meters per second requires directed mechanical force. Something deliberately pushed this material away. Within 6 hours, trajectory analysis confirmed it would intersect Earth. Within 12 hours, spectroscopy confirmed biological composition. Within 14 hours, NASA went into emergency session. Here is what we know for certain. The ejected material contains amino acid signatures consistent with protein formation, carbon-based molecular structures, lipid membrane configurations, and the building blocks of cellular life. It is intact, organized, and inbound. Dr. Elena Vasquez at Goddard Space Flight Center ran the contamination analysis. Her conclusion, leaked in an internal briefing 6 hours ago, states that the probability of terrestrial contamination producing these signatures at this distance is 0.00003%. We're looking at non-terrestrial biology. Let me repeat that non-terrestrial biology, confirmed in an official internal NASA document, point 3 independent facilities, ALMA in Chile, ESA in Spain, and NASA in Australia have verified the molecular composition. This isn't misinterpretation. This isn't contamination. This isn't instrument error. This is something human science has never encountered. And it is hitting the atmosphere at 12.3 km/s. Current models show atmospheric entry in roughly 36 hours. The entry point is over the Pacific, west of the Chilean coast. But the survival probability is where the data becomes truly impossible. Physics tells us this should be impossible. Atmospheric entry at 12.3 kilometers per second creates friction heating of approximately 1,750 degrees Celsius. Steel melts at 1,370 degrees Celsius. Biological proteins denature at 42 degrees Celsius. DNA breaks at 95 degrees Celsius. The temperature gap between biological survival and entry heat is a factor of 40. Nothing living should survive. But here's where the impossible becomes undeniable. ALMA's analysis revealed evidence of silicon-carbon hybrid bonding. Pause on that. Earth life is carbon-based. Silicon sits right below carbon on the periodic table and also forms 4 bonds. We've theorized about silicon-based life but never found it. Until now. Silicon-carbon hybrid molecules can maintain structural integrity at temperatures exceeding 1,400 degrees Celsius. They resist radiation levels that would shred pure carbon biology. They remain stable in a vacuum. The spectroscopy shows exactly these structures. If this organism evolved with silicon-carbon biochemistry, atmospheric entry isn't a death sentence. It's a minor inconvenience. Dr. Sarah Chun at MIT ran survival models based on these configurations. Her preliminary analysis concluded that survival probability through entry could exceed 60%. That number defies everything we know about the fragility of life. Then there is the radiation. Interstellar space is lethal. Cosmic rays travel at near light speed. 3I Atlas has been in transit for an estimated 2.4 million years. The DNA damage alone should render it non-functional. Yet, it remains intact. This suggests 2 possibilities. 1. The organism has repair mechanisms 10,000 times more efficient than anything on Earth. 2. It was shielded inside 3I Atlas until ejection. But if it was shielded, the ejection wasn't accidental. You don't accidentally eject protected cargo on a precision trajectory toward an inhabited world. That requires intention. AT 1733 Universal Time, coordinated on December 30th. JPL completed a trajectory reconstruction. They found that the ejection happened at the precise orbital moment required for Earth intersection. A mere 3 hours earlier or later, and it would have missed us by hundreds of thousands of kilometers. The window was 7 hours wide out of a 47-day period. The probability of a random ejection hitting that window is 0.6%. When you multiply the probabilities, thermal survival, biological composition, radiation survival, and the timing window, you get a number like 1 in 47 billion. The odds of being struck by lightning 7 times in a year are better. Even Dr. Michi in a private communication, stated, "At some point, we must consider that the improbable is not the impossible, and the intentional is not the unthinkable." This ejection was a delivery, and now for the update that changes everything. This happened just 9 hours, 8 GOD, T1612 Universal Time, coordinated on New Year's Eve. JWST's NIR spec instrument targeted the material. It found that the biology is not dormant. It is metabolizing. It is consuming energy and generating heat. It is actively alive in the vacuum of space at minus 150 degrees Celsius, traveling at 12.3 km/s. But that's not all. At 2147 Universal Time coordinated, the Deep Space Network detected a secondary emission, a radio frequency, structured, repeating. The organism is transmitting a signal. The pattern is 47 pulses, pause, 47 pulses, pause. The atomic number of silver is 47, a highly conductive element used in electronics. Is that a coincidence? NASA Administrator Bill Nelson has already convened with the White House. Protocols for first contact and planetary protection have been activated. The organism is 31 hours from entry. It is alive. It is transmitting. And every agency is operating under the assumption that this is not natural. Something designed this. Something sent this. The final question is, what happens when it lands? The entry point has narrowed to 340 kilometers west of Santiago, Chile. Our containment facilities are designed for dead rocks, not for an actively metabolizing, transmitting entity capable of surviving interstellar travel, the doctor. Vasquez's recommendation was blunt. Standard containment assumptions may not apply. That is code for we have no idea what we are dealing with. Naval vessels are converging on the impact zone. Biocontainment units are flying in from Tokyo, Geneva, and Atlanta. The largest scientific response in history is mobilizing to meet something they don't understand. That is it a seed? A probe? A message? In 29 hours, we will either have answers or we will face more questions than humanity has ever known. Earth is about to receive a delivery from beyond our solar system. Whatever comes out of that impact site, we're not ready.